Hi, I'm Gene Ward with Survival and Outdoor Safety. When I began my walk across the United States back in 1984, I had two goals in mind. The first and most obvious of those goals was, of course, to complete my walk across the country. The second goal, however, was much more important to me, and that was to take all this time that I had walking and figuring out the best possible way that I could teach you how to survive out here when things go wrong. After spending over 14 months on the road and speaking to more than 200 groups, this is what I found. That survival instruction in this country was virtually non-existent, and for a very good reason. Most of the people coming to listen to me were not willing to spend 2 weeks of their time going through some very intensive training like we taught in the military in order to learn their survival skills. What they were hoping to do was get the survival information they needed in that 1 hour block of time that I was spending with them. But is that realistic? Is it even possible to boil down 8 years of experience as a global survival instructor with the United States Air Force into a 1 hour block of training that's going to make an impact on my audience and their ability to survive out here? By comparison, the walk across the United States was easy. In 1 hour's time, could I provide them with the tools, the training, and the skills necessary not just to survive, but to thrive out here? Yes, I could. I'm going to be teaching you the best way I know how to react to a life-threatening situation. I'm going to show you the most surefire technique that I've come up with that's going to allow you to build a fire when conditions are at their absolute worst out here. I'm also going to show you the shelter that I've invented that is going to take care of your shelter needs almost anywhere on this planet. And I'm also going to teach you the most effective signaling device of the 20th century. Let's get started. If you become lost, what you should do is stop and get control of those emotions. Take an inventory of what you've got to work with. Get organized and develop a plan of action that's going to get you and yours through this night safely. Without a survival kit, it's going to be very difficult to get control of your emotions. The mind just doesn't want to work well when it's consumed by fear. What you're most likely going to do is to continue to try to keep getting back to your vehicle, even though you have no idea where that's at. The goal of this video is to show you that a small survival kit can keep these nights from becoming life-threatening. Of all the tools that I stock in my survival kit, the one item that I use the most and place the highest value on is my knife. The knives that I've been carrying for years are the Leatherman Wave and the Swiss Army Huntsman knife. The one item that both of these have in common is a good saw blade on it. Almost everything that I do out here, everything that I manufacture, everything that you see in any of my films, were all manufactured with one of these two items. I place such a high importance on knives that I actually carry both of these with me. Of the two knives, I give the Leatherman Wave a little bit higher marks. The blades are much more accessible and they lock, and that's an important safety feature. One of the really cool tricks I learned when I was down in Panama from the instructors down there was how to split a piece of wood like this using your knife. Saw halfway through the wood and just give it a good wrap on a rock, and you've got a nice split piece of wood. The one survival skill that I can teach you, which I believe will have the greatest impact on keeping you alive out here, is fire. Since I began my career as a survival instructor in 1968, the one thing that has made fire starting both easy and 100% certain has been pitchwood. The dark veins that look like strips of lean bacon in this old fir stump are real good indicators that my fire starting efforts are going to be successful, regardless of the weather conditions. It will be my nose, however, that will tell me for sure. That pine sol odor that I detect, that's pure gold. My approach to starting fires hasn't changed in over 30 years. First, I form a V with 2 arm-sized pieces of wood. This gives my small fire the protection it needs from the wind. Second, I scrape a small pile of shavings directly from the handle of my fire starting tool, which I developed in 2004. By holding the top edge of the attached scraper at a 45-degree angle and applying firm downward strokes, I can easily produce some excellent tinder. Third, I place the ferrocerium rod, also known as mish metal, directly over the pile of tinder and press slowly and firmly downward. If I'm fortunate enough to have found a source of pitchwood nearby, I will add several thin shavings just to kick it up a notch, so that when I add my handful of small dead twigs, they will ignite even if they are slightly damp. I cannot stress enough the importance of preparing kindling ahead of time, especially in wet weather. Several gradually increasing sizes of kindling will make the difference between success and failure. In addition to being one of the most reliable fire starters on the planet, the SOS fire starter can also be used successfully by survivors who have been injured. The SOS fire starter can easily be used one-handed if you have a saw blade. Cut a groove about 1/2 the depth of the scraper into an arm-sized branch. Insert the scraper and shave off flakes of pitchwood from the handle. It works best if you only shave in one direction, rather than going back and forth. Pile the shavings together alongside the scraper and pull the rod across the scraper, again going only in one direction. I have found that this technique is actually easier than the normal two-handed method. This will allow even preteens with some practice to have a chance to be successful. Try it. There's only one kind of cord that I recommend for your survival kit, and that's parachute cord, also known as 550 cord. The reason I recommend it, like a lot of other things that I recommend, is because it's multi-usefulness. Inside of a casing on real parachute cord, you're going to find 7 strands of inner core. Each of these inner cores is 35 pounds tensile strength. More than sufficient for fishing line, for snaring, even for lashing shelters. Even the inner core is twisted. It's a 3-strand twist, so you can actually separate these and get real fine thread or floss or whatever you need to use it for. Now, I generally recommend about 50 feet of this, which is this little bundle right here. And with the 7 strands of inner core and the casing, you're actually talking about 400 feet of usable rope. Hypothermia, which is often referred to as exposure, is far and away the #1 leading cause of death in the wilderness. You simply cannot allow yourself to get wet and cold out here. The consequences are deadly. A full body size plastic bag is both a quick and effective means of keeping hypothermia from becoming a life-threatening emergency. This high-density bag will easily fit in one of your back pockets. Personally, I prefer them to the much-touted space blankets for a variety of reasons. They're far more durable than the basic space blanket, and they're much more accessible. You can get them over your body 10 times faster than a folded-up piece of tin foil. They can also be utilized in so many different ways to save lives out here, and at a fraction of the cost. These highly versatile bags can also be used to make an excellent tube tent that is as quick as it is easy to construct. First, find 2 trees that are at least 8 feet apart. Next, cut off the end of the bag. Now, watch closely as I demonstrate how to tie a timber hitch around the trunk of this tree. The height's going to be about 2.5 feet off the ground. It's a friction knot, so the tighter I pull it, the better it will hold. Before I tie it to the other tree, I need to pass it through the plastic bag first. The knot that I'm going to tie at this end is called a trucker's hitch. Before I bring the line around the tree, I will tie a slip knot about a foot away. Then I bring the line around the trunk and through the slip knot, and then put some muscle into it and pull it real tight. Right at the point where the line bends back through the loop, I will pinch this between my fingers to keep it from slipping. Now I form a loop. I take the loop over the taut line and then through itself, kind of like tying your shoes. And then snug it up and throw a 1/2 hitch over it to keep it from slipping. With a strip of duct